Okay, so from this point we'll begin with a chain 3, turn your work, or turn your work and chain 3, it's whatever your preference is, yarn over, and V-stitch in the first chain 1 space. Now the chain 1 space is the same chain 1 space from the first row of V-stitches. So yarn over, insert your hook in between the scale, basically, the center of the scale, and complete a V-stitch, which is a double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet. Now here is what's known in the pattern as insert hook from front to back between next 2 scales and chain 1 space of first row directly behind it and work a V-stitch. This is the 3rd row listed in the pattern. Simply put, you're going to put these 2 rows, the red and the orange, together. So you will yarn over, insert your hook in the next V-stitch, as you can see, and directly back, straight back, so that you are underneath the space between the 2 scales. And you'll bring them together and work them as one space. Now, V-stitch in next chain 1 space. Same thing as before. You're bringing these 2 parts together, in between, straight back. That helps lock down the scales so they're not so loose, and gives you a cleaner look of the staggered scales. One of the last chain 1 space of row 3. And from here you will double crochet in the first double crochet of row 1. So you just slip your hook in there. And change colors to show you row 4. So as you can see, we now have our 2nd row of V-stitches, which is actually our 3rd row of the pattern. And now we are going to do the 2nd row of scales, which is the staggered row. So I'm going to change colors. Now from this point we turn our work, and you will slip stitch in the first 2 double crochets. So slip stitch, do it very, well not very, but loose. And in the first chain 1 space. Now that is moving your stitches over without adding height to this V-stitch. From here you will yarn over and begin your 5 front post double crochets from top to bottom to begin your first scale of this row. Chain 1, turn your work. so that now you're working from bottom to top, and work 5 front post double crochets. Now the slip stitch at the beginning of the row is necessary to get the staggered scales, so that you're not working scale on top of scale. And just as before, skip the next V-stitch, move to the next, 5 front post double crochets down, chain 1, 5 front post double crochets up. Skip the next V-stitch and work this way until you have 2 V-stitches left, which is where I'm at right now on my swatch. And here, from this point, you'll see that we have made 3 staggered scales on top of the 4 scales. Next step is to slip stitch into the next V-stitch, or the last V-stitch, slip stitch into next double crochet, and slip stitch into the top of the chain 3, or first double crochet of the row. And for here, again, color change for me, not for you. And now from this point, you will work row 3 again, which is a V-stitch row, or the yellow row pictured. And you will work that all the way up until you've finished your beautiful blanket. And this tutorial was to show how to create the crocodile stitch as it is here, where a 2-row repeat equals 1 row of scales. The back of the piece should look like this. Obviously the front should look like beautiful scales. And here we are with the back of the sample piece, where red is row 1. Here we are with the back of the sample piece I just made, where red is row 1, orange is row 2, yellow is row 3, and green is row 4. And all you will see from the front is row 2 and row 4, which are the scales. And to achieve this look of changing colors every scale row, what you'll have to do is begin with your main color in the chain, in your foundation chain, like I did with red. I did my first row of V-stitches in red, then I did my first row of scales in red. Now whatever the next row of scales is going to be, that's the color you need to make your V-stitches in, so that it blends very well. So you can see if I lift up these scales, you'll see my V-stitches underneath are orange. My V-stitches underneath are yellow. V-stitches underneath, green, and blue, and purple, and pink.